My name is Claudia Costin, and I am presently the director of CEIPI. CEIPI is the Center for Excellence and Innovation in Education Policies from Fundação Getúlio Vargas. I was previously Senior Director for Global Education in the World Bank and also Secretary of Education for the city of Rio de Janeiro. And in those positions I have worked with education statistics, but even before that, as sector manager for public sector in the World Bank, I had the opportunity to see the first results from PISA 2000 and to read the report and think about challenges that my country was facing at the time. If I remember correctly, we were the last country in the PISA ranking. So new policies emerged because of that, and it was an interesting time to follow what was being discussed in Latin America.
Great. So I'm going to follow with the questions. So section 1, main objectives of the global monitoring reports. So do you consider that global monitoring reports are a useful tool for evaluating progress in education among nations?
Yes, I definitely consider a good tool to monitor and especially benchmark countries. It's very hard for a country to be able to understand where the country is standing among nations, especially in quality of education. Some countries do not have the statistic capabilities to follow up on their performance and discovering where they stand, and especially comparing itself with other nations. So it is a good assessing tool. It doesn't cover everything that should be monitored in education, but it gives data on important things such as, are kids really learning? Are they remaining in school and learning? Which is very important. There is some anecdotal information on the quality of the schools in Latin America before we have universalized access to at least at primary level. And they are exactly that, anecdotal, in the sense that we really don't know about the value added to those kids that most of them at the time were vulnerable children, were excluded from schools, if what they learned was related to the fact that they came from literate parents or if it was the school factor that was making them learn more. Now that we have, at least in the region, most of the children in schools, it's very important to know if we are really delivering on the promise to issure equality of opportunities through education. So they are a useful tool, and they help countries benchmark themselves vis-a-vis other countries. And the information must be read, contextualized, knowing that countries are coming from different settings and have different challenges to face.
Good. And now in section 2, global reports, impact on education policy. Why do you think nations decide to participate in such global monitoring reports?
Okay, so First Nations decide to participate because they want to see if the policies they are implemented are useful and efficient for their countries. Sometimes we spend too little money in education, or even we spend or even the other way around. We overspend in education to no results. So it's important to know if we are having the best value for money in education results. So some policy challenges, such as should we raise teachers' salaries, which will make education much more expensive, but on the other hand, much more attractive to the best students from high school to get into the profession. Should we spend more on in-service education? Should we have after-school activities? We will only know if we look at those expenditures compared to the results we are having in learning. School is not only about having cognitive skills developed, but it is also. So instead of complaining about eventually monitoring and tests that assess cognitive skills, we should ensure that we have also some kind of measurement of social and emotional learning, for example, or as PISA has recently developed, the collaborative problem-solving skills being assessed in one of the PISA assessments.
Good, and still on section 2, are there recommendations, experienced best practice presented in these reports relevant for your country education policy, and why?
I think they are important. It is education. You have to think about best practices, but you have to also look at best practices that can be scaled up. So if some experiences have shown to lead to impact and impact a scale in some geographies, in some countries, why not studying this approach and eventually applying them in the developing world? But at the same time, as I say this, there is a caveat. As McKinsey report how the best systems in the world keep getting, or the most improved system in the world keep getting better, where they state that it's not the same set of interventions that are useful for countries that are in different improvement journeys around the world. We have to be careful to understand exactly where each country stands connected to its performance and also to the equity the system can ensure. And in that sense, choose a set of interventions that might make this improvement journey advance much more. So it's not the recipe that Singapore has to follow right now that is applicable, for example, to Brazil, a country which unfortunately doesn't have a very good performance in either in science or mathematics or even reading and interpretation. So it's important to know where you stand and then follow some of the best practices. One that I'm certain that would be very useful, as the OECD has stated in the PISA report, is investing in teachers, making the profession attractive, changing the way we deal with pre-service education, really professionalizing the profession, if we can say so, uh, having contracts that are for more hours and more sustainable and more attractive.
Good. Now moving forward to section 3, reactions to the publication of the reports. So, how are the governments and policy actors reacting after the reports are published? Do they recognize the information as valid? Do they have a more critical position towards the information the reports present?
Well, I can talk about Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. And in the three countries, uh, the global monitoring report from UNESCO doesn't make the news as much as the PISA report. And probably because it doesn't deal with learning outcomes, or doesn't deal with learning outcomes as much as the PISA report. But definitely, PISA reports, they make the news, they make the front page of the newspapers. There is a social movement in Brazil called All for Education that not only reads the report but help journalists understand the challenges that Brazil is facing. And the existence of such a movement is something I think most countries should look upon to ensure that the information is properly digested, not only as an announcement of apocalypse in the case that the results are bad, but also on showing that countries that sometimes are poorer or that have additional challenges have succeeded in making education progress. It was as useful to read about Brazil's results as it was reading the effort that Poland has made to ensure that their education system progress as much as they wanted, or that Vietnam, a poor country, was able to overcome its difficulties. So the reports are definitely discussed, but it helps having some civil society organization or some civic movement that can help journalists and people understand what should be done and what could be done.
Okay. And now the last section, section number 4, dissemination of global reports results, communication strategy. How widely is the information coming from these global monitoring reports disseminated in the media specifically?
Yes, I already covered this question. The reports are disseminated. It would help if they had a more executive version of that, especially the global monitoring report from UNESCO. The main findings are not that much disseminated as I mentioned. The World Development Report, on the other hand, there is much effort in ensuring that it happens, especially this last one on learning. But if there was a shorter version and also a partnership with civil society organizations, it would help a lot. So they are making themselves read, but not as widely as it should. Social media is also a means to ensure that people read. We have to ensure that they are read also by teachers, which is not always the case. There is a language barrier in many countries, but that's not the whole story. The teachers' pre-service education, universities should receive copies, and an university professor should be reading them and making them visible for future teachers as well.
Good. Thank you, Professor Costin, for all your questions and answers.
And I hope it was useful, and it's a good initiative to assess if those reports are being useful. I believe they are. They should be a little bit more disseminated. Just to summarize what I have said.
Thank you.